Ladies and gentlemen, let us talk about something strange, something unsettling, something most people whisper about but rarely face head-on: decluttering in our later years. You see, decluttering is not just about things. It is about time. It is about identity. And most of all, it is about what it means to let go. Look around you. Look at the books stacked on the shelves, the clothes hanging in the closet, the little trinkets on the windowsill that have gathered more dust than attention. These are not just objects. They are echoes, silent witnesses to your journey, pieces of a puzzle that, when assembled, tell the story of who you have been. And yet here's the paradox. You are not your things, but they are you. What do I mean by that? We spend our lives collecting, buying, keeping, holding. Not just things, but moments, relationships, identities. That old record player in the corner is not just a machine. It's the sound of an evening long ago. A dance in the living room. A person you used to be. That coat in the back of the closet isn't just fabric and thread. It's the feeling of a certain winter. A memory of someone who once loved you in it. You tell yourself, you could get rid of it, it's just stuff. But the moment you try, something tugs at you. A hesitation, a whisper, and if you listen closely, it is not the object itself that speaks, but the version of yourself that lived with it. Because objects, you see, are vessels. They hold time, they hold identity. They hold who you were when you first held them. And this is where the struggle begins. We like to think of ourselves as fluid, as beings that grow and change, always moving forward, but deep down, we are terrified of losing proof that we ever were what we once were. So we hold on to objects, believing that as long as they remain, so do the versions of ourselves attached to them. A dress from a time when we felt beautiful, a book from when our minds were sharp and hungry, a tool from when we were capable, strong, needed. You are not your things, but they are you. Not because they define you, but because they remind you. And that's where the real fear of decluttering lies. It's not about letting go of objects. It's about letting go of identities, letting go of proof, letting go of a self you once inhabited but may never be again. That's why the decision to part with something can feel like a betrayal, as if you are abandoning a part of yourself, as if the moment you let go, the memory will follow, dissolving into nothingness. But ask yourself this: is memory truly held in the object, or is it held in you? Does a book on the shelf remember being read? Does a piece of clothing recall the body that wore it? Or is it that we have assigned them this power, believing that without them we lose not just the item, but the part of our life that came with it? You are not your things, but they are you. A paradox, a puzzle, a truth we all must wrestle with. Memory is a strange thing. It is invisible, yet it shapes everything we do. It is weightless, yet we carry it like a heavy bag strapped to our backs. It sneaks up on us in the most unexpected moments. At the smell of an old perfume, in the tune of a half-forgotten song, in the feel of a chair that once belonged to someone who is no longer here. We call memory a gift because it lets us relive moments long past. It lets us keep people alive in our minds, even when they have gone. It allows us to return, if only in spirit, to the places and times that shaped us. But memory is also a curse, because it does not let us go easily. It clings. It insists on being honored. It weaves itself into objects, into places, into routines, until we are no longer sure if we possess our memories or if our memories possess us. Take an old photograph. You glance at it, and suddenly you are no longer where you stand. You are there, in that moment, as if time folded in on itself. But then, a sharp pull in the chest. The moment is gone. The people in the picture do not move, do not breathe. The laughter caught in the image does not echo through the room. and yet you feel it. So real, you could almost reach out and touch it. And this is where the weight of memory becomes a burden, because it makes us believe that without the object, the memory might fade. And if the memory fades, what happens to the part of us that lived it? That's why we keep things long past their use. Old letters, broken watches, dresses that no longer fit. Not because we need them, but because they hold a piece of time we are afraid to lose. And so our homes become museums, carefully curated to preserve a past that no longer exists. But memory is a trickster. It does not obey logic. It does not live in neat boxes or orderly files. It moves like water, slipping between the cracks of time, showing up when we least expect it. It does not need objects to survive. But we, being human, like to believe otherwise. And so we hold on even when the weight grows too heavy to carry. Not the loud kind, not the kind that people gather around and console you for. No one sends condolences when you donate an old coat or throw away a stack of letters. No one offers you comforting words when you finally decide to part with a piece of furniture that has been with you for decades. But deep inside, something aches, something resists. Because letting go feels like a small death, and in a way it is. When we let go of something, we are not just discarding an object. We are acknowledging the passage of time. We are saying, this moment is gone. This version of me no longer exists. And this thing no longer belongs in the life I am living now. And that is terrifying. Because if we admit that time has moved forward, then we must also admit that we are moving with it. We must acknowledge that we are no longer who we once were. And deeper still, we must face the truth we spend so much of our lives trying to avoid. Everything is impermanent. Everything changes. This is why we cling, not because we need the thing itself, but because we need the illusion that nothing has changed, that we are still as young, as strong, as needed, as full of possibility as we were when we first brought that thing into our lives. Letting go forces us to confront our own impermanence. This is why the process of decluttering is not just about tidying up. It is a reckoning. It is an encounter with all the past versions of ourselves, with all the people we have been, and all the lives we have lived. And when we finally decide to let something go, it feels as if we are saying goodbye to a part of ourselves, a funeral without flowers. But here's the strange thing. There is relief in it, because while letting go feels like dying, what is death but transformation? What is death but a doorway to something new? The tree does not weep when it sheds its leaves. The river does not mourn when it changes course. They do not see these moments as losses, but as the natural rhythm of existence. It is only we, with our clinging minds and our fear of the unknown, who resist the flow. And yet, no matter how tightly we hold on, time moves forward, life continues. The past, no matter how beautifully we try to preserve it, remains untouchable. Letting go feels like dying, because it is the death of what was. But in that space, something new has room to be born. For the freedom you fear is the freedom you crave. Freedom is a strange thing. We speak of it as if it is always desirable, as if it is the ultimate goal, the pinnacle of human existence. But have you ever noticed how often people run from it? How they grasp at the familiar, even when the familiar has become a cage? It is easy to talk about freedom when it is theoretical, when it is a dream, an idea, something that lives in books and speeches. But when real freedom stands before you, when it knocks on your door and asks you to step into the unknown, that is when you hesitate. That is when the fear creeps in. Because freedom is emptiness. It is space. It is open air where once there were walls. It is a clear shelf where once there were books and knickknacks. It is a quiet room where once there was clutter, noise, and the comfort of the past pressing in around you. And what people don't talk about, the thing that no one warns you about, is that emptiness can be terrifying. We hold on to things not just because we love them, but because they fill space. Physical space, yes, but also emotional space. A house filled with objects is a house filled with distractions, with anchors, with proof that we have lived, that we have mattered, that we have been someone. But what happens when all of that is stripped away? What happens when the shelves are bare, the closets are empty, the old relics of the past no longer weigh down the present? That is when you must face the truth, that you are not the things you own, nor the roles you once played. That beneath all the layers of identity, all the years of accumulation, all the memories stored in objects, you remain. And that is where fear takes root. Because without the weight of the past, without the distractions of clutter, without the comfort of what was, you are left with nothing but yourself, nothing but this moment, unshaped by history, unburdened by expectations. And what then? Who are you without the objects that once defined you? Who are you without the old books that once made you feel intelligent? The sentimental trinkets that once made you feel loved? The clothes that once made you feel beautiful? This is why so many people struggle with decluttering. It is not just about getting rid of things. It is about getting rid of illusions. It is about stepping into a space where you are not defined by what you own, but by something deeper, something more difficult to grasp. And yet that is the paradox of freedom. We resist it, we fear it, we avoid it. But deep down, it is what we crave. We crave the lightness, the simplicity, the ability to move freely without the weight of the past on our shoulders. We long to be untangled from the web of our own making. But to reach that place, we must be willing to step into the emptiness, to let go of what we thought we needed, to stand in the open air, uncertain, unburdened, and finally, truly free.